I mean, when I listen to the music, I still listen to the old bands that I started to listen to when I was younger. I still listen to the, early Slayer and Creator and such
Yeah,
bands.
yeah. Well, I am very, very lucky to finally have the chance to talk on this channel with DRAAKH KIMERA. Thank you so much. Here we are again, another cycle for you. You seem very, very calm. Are you very, very calm? I mean, you've done this many times before, or is there some fire burning, eager to come out with this new album?
Oh, yeah. In that way, I'm not calm at all. What can I say? Of course, as usual, when you have created something new, you're eager to show it as much as possible. And when recording a new album, the best way is to, basically to do it live. And giving cherry picking the songs that we play live and give it a new dimension to everything in front of a live audience.
Yeah. Now, you guys are a band that have never been afraid to try new things, to do new things, to evolve. There have been albums that have been very different than other albums over the years. We obviously know that you guys were gone for a while, or at least felt to all of us like you were gone for a while, and then we had the glorious return. How do you look at this right now? Like, is this new album, I think it's overall officially the 7th album of the band, and a band that is 30 years old? Or do you look at this more as this is the 3rd album of a somewhat different, newer band? Like what's it like for you?
Well, as you say, in the past, we were totally restless in being conservative and being that kind of a metal band that's doing the albums the same way as always, and sounding the same way as always. But somehow, if you could be a little self-critical on that point, maybe that's there are reasons why you shouldn't go away too much from your DNA. But we were younger then, and we were just more restless and wanted to try out new things, as you mentioned. And that's why we have explored a lot of genres during these years when we were active. So now with this reboot again, when we start up again, we may have more looked into our DNA and started to do what we once started the band for, and what kind of a sound we wanted to have back then. So it is a new start of the very start of the band back in the 90s.
Apart from understanding yourself a little better now than when you were kids, in a way, it sounds like you're almost like revisiting the start again. Like, what is, apart from that, being more self-aware maybe, but what's the biggest change since those days? And are there elements of those energetic, youthful days that you kind of miss?
Yeah, of course, when you're younger, you're picking up, you're more easily influenced by the surrounding of everything that is in life, and with the music, you pick up anything, and you're just hooked into anything. When you get older, I mean, when I listen to the music, I still listen to the old bands that I started to listen to when I was younger. I still listen to the, early Slayer and Creator and such bands. Very conservative of taking in any new things. But okay, of course I do it, but not in the same way when I was younger, of course. So maybe it's harder to be influenced by something new. So the best thing to be influenced by something and getting the creation mode on was somehow a strategy to look into our very first beginning, what was in our DNA back in the days, what did we want to achieve. So a little bit that we try to influence from ourselves from the past and bring it to the present day. So that's been a little bit of a strategy now the last years when we've been composing.
That is that then also the one of the reasons that today we're living in almost like this golden age for like sub genres of black metal, and we see a lot of new bands that bring a post metal flavor and an atmospheric flavor, and see a lot of bands doing almost like prog like black metal with long songs and a lot of build, a lot of atmosphere. You guys remind us with this album that black metal is first and foremost rock and roll, and is a little bit more to the point. Is that one of the reasons that it kind of like trying to have that old school mentality, that we get this album that is very concise? Like, I don't think there's a song on the album that is 5 minutes, or I think they're all there's a few acoustic guitars once in a while to give us a curveball, but then very quickly after there's that raw energy. Is that purely a natural evolution from letting those old school influences in, or was that also a little bit of a proactive approach or a choice to be like, hey, we see all these bands today being super super creative and great for that, but we want to do something different?
It became this way more or less in the progress. We didn't really focus on the track lengths, how long they would be. It just went this way during the progress when we were writing. The thing that we did this time, apart from what we have ever done, was that let's just make this in a fun way now, not be too self-critical on everything that we bring up to the table. Let's just roll out the ideas freely, and let's do a lot of ideas, a lot of songs, and let's pre-produce these and choose a lot of songs that we also record in the studio. And after that, we basically cherry-picked the songs that we thought would be a good order for an album, where the songs, the correct songs would be in a good order to have a album which is more or less in the same theme, so to say, in the music kind of a style. Even though we didn't only look into our past, we also in our musical past, but also in the past what we listened to when we were kids. So we have a lot of influences from the early Slayer stuff and so on, which is quite clear on the new album. So I would say that's a huge difference. And then, of course, we are not only a two-man band now, which we've been. We've been two persons only doing all the composition and all the lyric writing. This time we were actually a band of 5 people that were contributing, and we could give ideas and conversations about certain ideas and so on.
With all those contributions, and it sounds like a lot of creativity, you say that you had, a good amount of songs that you could really pick the ones that made the best cohesive album. Does that mean that um, like a good amount of work for the next few albums has already been done, or are those songs that didn't make that cut, are they're out and you start fresh going forward?
That we haven't decided yet, but the main idea was to maybe to save it to do some kind of a EP release later
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
You know, the song, the B-sides or something like that.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know, but or we will scrap them totally. But for sure, we won't bring them into a new album. I don't think so,
Okay,
because sound-wise, you know, otherwise we need to re-record them again
right,
to have the same sound as the other songs.
got it.
But I think that in an eventual next album, I think somehow they won't fit anyway. I'm pretty sure of that.
You mentioned already a few times that at the end of the day, it's really about playing music live and having that intensity and that energy. And you also mentioned a couple of times that, you know, there's been some experimentation in the career and you're kind of going back to basics with this album and you really seem to like that. Should we therefore expect you guys to, when you go play shows, to focus predominantly on this new album and maybe some very, very old stuff, but that there's a part of the discography that for the time being is going to be left in the past?
The one album that when we never really can cut off the live set is the first album.
Of
Really,
course.
it's a milestone in many ways in our discography. So we will always need to play songs from that album for sure. But maybe we will not. We will play fewer songs because, of course, we want to do the new songs as lot as possible when we have released it. But for sure, we will always mix some old material with the new ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's for sure.
Okay. Now, to go back to the album specifically, it's something that I like to ask artists who do this about, because there's always different reasons for it. Most of this album is in English, but there are two songs in particular that are in Swedish. We've got the title track of, I'm going to mispronounce this obviously, but Fasornas Tid, and Svarta. Those are two tracks that you chose to write them as a band in Swedish. Usually that means that the message you want to bring, just, you know, another language like English wouldn't do it justice. But what made you chose to write in Swedish for those two particular songs? And as maybe a bit of a follow-up, is it then kind of a bit of a shame that the average fan that is not Swedish will never really get the nuance that you're because we're gonna Google Translate stuff to kind of figure out what you're talking about, but we're not gonna get the poetry, right?
No.
What makes those songs specific that they had to be written in Swedish?
I think it will be easier to for an expression point of view to do it in the mother language, so to say, when you get this idea of a lyric. But that has also been something that we have done from the very beginning. I think we were maybe one of the few bands that really sang in from the Scandinavian black metal scene that started to sing with on our mother language, and it was just an idea that we took, and it's really been inherited for the coming albums. But why it turns up like that, it's more of a feeling, I think, when you, because usually the song is ready and more or less 90% the arrangements are done. Then you start to write the lyrics, and when you come up with this idea of a lyrical theme, then this time it went more natural that, oh, okay, this would be better to write in Swedish. But because after all, in this genre, it's not always so very obvious to hear the lyrics anyway, you know, when the kind of a song that,
Right.
that there is. But that's why the most of these songs where we have the clean singing parts is usually English, because then it will be more easier to hear the what we are singing without using the lyrics, you know.
I find here in North America that more and more people, the fans, the audience, more and more people seem to really embrace those non-English songs, and that they become more popular. Maybe it is because it's even easier to really put your own meaning onto a song or a text if you don't fully understand what was written to begin with. Is that something that you see as well, that, you know, these songs, one of them is a single obviously for you guys now, that they're getting sometimes a better response outside of Sweden than you initially thought?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes there are people that are very curious about it, and are asking questions about the title and the lyrics sometimes, because they get curious in that way, because it isn't that obvious to know what it is about. And when you listen to the song and you get this, when you get a good feeling of the song, you like the song, and you get into an atmosphere that is really into you, then they get the really, they want to know a little bit deeper about the song, and they ask questions. So it's great in that way. And you know, the Swedish, the title and the song titles that are on the new album, actually you can Google Translate, because I checked it myself, and you will get the correct correct translation now. The last album was the title on that wasn't really, you couldn't Google Translate it, but for this time you can, like Fasornas Tid. It is basically the time of horrors.
2025 is going to be here extremely fast. What can we keep our eyes open for and our fingers crossed for as you're going to promote this album for quite some time still? What can you share from your plans?
We have I think that hopefully after the album release, some more promoters will actually get in touch. But I mean, we have some festivals and some gigs already booked, but they are not so many yet. We are looking into a European tour at the end of next year, so it's quite long until that. But I could say that we really haven't that much yet on our table to look into, even though that we will, of course, would like to go back to well, we were in US, not in Canada, but Canada would be great, and US as well again. But we basically we have to see what happens. So we don't really know nothing more than that. Not just yet.
Well, Canadian visas are much more cheap than American visas at the time. So maybe you should just come for a pure Canadian tour. We would love to have you. But if you do come to the US, we get it. That bands want to play the US. We hope, obviously, that you cross the border a few times and that we get to enjoy a really new, cool show with all this new material that you get to play. DRAAKH KIMERA, thank you so much for taking the time and to, you know, share a little bit about this album and how it came to be. Very excited for all the fans to discover this album. I believe it comes out December 13th, Friday the 13th.
Yes, that is correct.
In a few weeks from now, as we're talking, and hopefully by that time we'll get some more announcements for shows in 2025. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I know how like these weeks are for you. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you too.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.